everybody. I'm Sandy Myodo Gougis with Profound Way. Thanks for joining me today. I had queried the Facebook group and said, hey, do you all have anything that would be helpful for me to talk about? And someone suggested the emotions of anger and disappointment. And this is a great thing to take a look at, because who hasn't been disappointed at some point in your life? Who hasn't felt angry about something in your life? So we'll talk a little bit about where these emotions come from, and then we'll talk about how we can manage them when they arise. But first I want to say that emotions are not good, not bad. They have no inherent moral quality on their own. What does matter is what we do with them once they arrive. About 20 years ago, I was talking to one of my besties, and I was all mad about something. And she said to me, and she was a very wise lady, and she said to me, you can be as angry as you want. And I thought, yes, validation. And then she said, you just don't get to act on it. Damn it. That's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to rage, But that's not a good approach to dealing with that. So it's not how we feel, it is what we do with the feelings. When we look at our feelings, we can evaluate them according to how we react to them internally, whether we find them to be pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. And really that's about it. There's no moral quality here. So when we're looking at feeling disappointed, or we're looking at feeling angry, then usually we find those to be unpleasant, and that's why we want to find some kind of healthy way of dealing with them. So I say dealing with them rather than fighting against them or controlling them, because our feelings come from our subconscious part of the mind. Now I'm drawing on my bachelor's degree in psychology and my training in hypnotherapy here. The subconscious mind does not like to be told what to do. It will rebel against it. This is why the meditation instructions are usually things like allow the mind to settle rather than force it to settle, because that doesn't work. So we're not going to try to control these emotions. We're just going to allow them to be, and we're going to help ourselves process them in ways that are healthy. But they're not good, not bad, morally speaking. They're just unpleasant. So first, where do they come from? Well, usually they come from something deeper than what we are thinking in the moment. In the moment, we're mad. But then if we look at it later, we're frequently not angry for the reason we think we are. And sometimes there's something underlying it. I'll give you an example. I love my traffic examples being in Angelino. Okay? Car accidents. Who has not had a fender bender if you've lived in LA for any length of time? And I'm in the greater LA area here. When that happens, our frequent response is anger, especially if we feel like it's not our fault. We're mad. And we're also disappointed at the same time, right? Because now there's damage to the car. And usually we like our car, especially we Angelinos. We love our cars. So there's all these different things going on. Where does it come from? Frequently it's fear, because we could have been hurt. If we're up and around and we're hopping mad to yell at that other driver, we're not injured badly, at least. So we could have been. And that thought doesn't occur to us usually until later, when we're looking at the car and we're like, oh, that's a good thing that I had all these safety features in my car, or I could have been hurt here, or it's a good thing that this thing occurred, or it could have been a lot worse. And we might not be consciously aware of that, but subconsciously we are. We were in danger. We were in danger, and that impact jolts us. Danger, danger. And that's where the anger comes from. So frequently, well, I'm not going to say 100% of the time, but frequently, anger is a response to something else that has happened. And very often, that is fear. When we look at the current political climate in the United States, we see a lot of anger. And a lot of that anger comes from fear. Fear that someone's rights could be taken away, maybe my rights. Fear that there could be violence erupting over this. All kinds of different fears. And those fears then make us angry. Fight or flight. Fight, flight, or freeze, actually. We now know. And if we can't flee, then the fight part can come up. So anger has a lot of different roots that might not be what it looks like on the surface. And while we're angry, we can't really figure that out. So when the anger has passed, then you can take a look. The benefit of taking a look to see what caused it is so that you can spot it when it comes up again. And then you can deal with it more quickly and not react in a way that's unskillful. Disappointment is similar in that sometimes it's not what we think it is. Sometimes it is. But it is a reaction to things not going our way. I'm going to draw on Buddhism here because that's what I know. And the Buddha said that the big root of our dissatisfaction with life is being too attached to having our own way. I wanted my life to turn out this way and it didn't, so I am disappointed. And disappointed then can cause this sorrow, or maybe the sorrow causes the disappointment. I don't know which way that one flows. I don't know that other people know that either. But when we're disappointed in something, that's frequently the accompanying emotion is sadness. Like, oh, I'm disappointed. Last night, my husband and I went out for frozen yogurt. Wonderful treat. And they did not have the flavor that I wanted. Now, we were there 20 minutes till they were closing. So, if they're out of something, they're not going to reload it at that hour because it's a waste. And I understand that. We could have gone earlier, but we didn't. And so they were out of that flavor. And was I disappointed? Yes. Was I sad about it? No, because I'm not that attached. I don't remember what the flavor was now. So there you go. It wasn't that big of a deal, was it? I picked something else and it was delicious. So when we're too attached, I would remember what the flavor was that they were out of, and I'd still be unhappy. But I'm not unhappy because I had delicious frozen yogurt. Who can be unhappy when you have that? So disappointment is a reaction to not getting something that we wanted, which means we had an expectation. We had an expectation that they would have the flavor I want. And then we have the nerve to be disappointed when the universe does not unfold to meet our plans. So, disappointment, if you kind of look at it and scale it back down, you can see that it's usually a pretty manageable situation. Sometimes it's over something bigger than frozen yogurt, and I understand that. But even then, it's brought about by our attachment to having our own way. If we can release that and say, well, I didn't get to have my own way, and that's okay, then that can be very helpful. So acceptance is a good antidote toward disappointment, just accepting what is. I had breast cancer years ago. Am I disappointed that I had breast cancer? Well, yeah, sometimes I am, because it made a lot of physiological changes in my body that are still present today. My eyebrows are virtually all pencil because they fell out, and unlike my hair and my eyelashes, they did not come back. They're just a little spot. So I spend a lot of time every morning giving myself eyebrows so that I have facial expressions. Is that disappointing? Well, yeah, sure it is. But am I sad about it now? No, I'm thrilled to death that I survived and I get to bitch about it. So it's all in what we make of it. So let's talk about how we deal with these emotions when they come up. First, remember, no moral quality. The only good or bad here is how we choose to behave. And that is a choice. When the emotions are raging and they're very powerful, They can override our nervous system. They take us into fight, flight, or freeze. We have to get out of that. That's step one. We have to get out of that. We have to calm down. We can do that by using our breath. Deep breath in, long breath out. The breath should always be comfortable. So breathe in as deeply as is comfortable, and then breathe out as slowly as is comfortable. The out breath should be a little bit more than twice as long as the in breath. Why is that, Sandy? I'm glad you asked. There's a physiological reason for this, and it is this. Every time we breathe in, our heart rate is a little bit quicker. And every time we breathe out, our heart rate is a little bit slower. Not enough that you notice. If you were taking your pulse, you'd notice, but otherwise you don't really notice in daily life. But if you do this with this elongated out breath, it slows your heart rate down over the course of a few breaths. What's the benefit of that? That flips the switch on the nervous system. Now we go from fight, flight, or freeze into rest or digest. And that is the first step toward getting a handle on our situation, to help us to choose the behavior that we want to choose rather than the one that our nervous system is telling us to choose, because it's on high alert. When our nervous system is on high alert, our body releases stress hormones such as cortisol and some other ones. I just mentioned cortisol because that's been the one that's in the news and you may have heard of it. Once that stuff is pumping through the bloodstream, we're in trouble, and it gets a lot harder to make an intelligent decision. Part of the effect that the stress hormones do is they activate us to fight or flee or freeze, and it takes blood and oxygen away from the prefrontal cortex area of the brain, the thinking part, and it sends it to other parts of the body, which are needed to run away, fight, or freeze and hold still so the predator doesn't get us. So it's hard to make an intelligent, thoughtful decision to react to these powerful emotions. Here's the good news, is that your body will filter out the stress hormones from your bloodstream if you stop thinking about the stressful event. If you keep thinking about the stressor, you keep triggering your body to produce more and more and more cortisol et al., and you're not going to see any calmness coming your way. If you can stop ruminating on this stuff, then, more good news, your body will filter it out in about 20 minutes. Now, we don't always have 20 minutes to just sit and breathe and stop thinking about the thing. So let's deal with that first. You're in a business meeting. Your colleague across the table has just called you a particularly nasty name, and your boss, rather than being in your corner, has laughed because they think it's funny. Okay, this is not helpful, right? And you can't just get up and leave. It's a business meeting. But you can breathe. You can continue to breathe through it. And it doesn't have to be fully deep, big, obvious breaths. You can just breathe. You might be able to excuse yourself to go to the restroom, put some cool water on your face, and breathe, and breathe. And you can also remind yourself that whatever the triggering event is, and I'm going to stay with this example here, when this person says something snarky about you, it says more about them than about you. You don't know what kind of day they've had before they came into the office. You don't know why they're feeling the way that they're feeling, and it probably has very little to, if anything, to do with you. So you can remind yourself to not take it personally. In other situations, let's say the car accident, and you're feeling a deep disappointment about your beautiful car, then you can be grateful for what you do have. You didn't get hurt. I'm grateful to my car. You know, when I had cancer, this disappointment. Was I mad at my body? Very briefly, I was mad at it. Because cancer is your own cells mutating in unhealthy ways. I'm like, how dare you do this to me? And then I realized, no, you know what? no, it's a whole system, and it's going to take care of itself. And maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't, but it would to the best of its ability, and it did. And as I started to get better, I became more and more grateful for my body and to my body for healing and taking care of itself and my consciousness. So we can focus on whatever is the positive, focus on whatever is the good thing. You may be mad at your boss for not having your back, disappointed that your colleague called you this nasty thing, but you have a job. How many people don't have a job and wish they had a job? So there's something, whatever the thing is, that you can find to bright side it. So I'm using bright side as a verb. Whatever you can find to bright side that moment, hold on to that and breathe. Now, if you're by yourself, or you can get out of the situation, or you're home at the end of the workday, you're home after the traffic accident has occurred, now you can really spend some time getting rid of the cortisol. How do you do that? Breathing. In and then. In deeply and then out slowly. And do that for about 20 minutes. And don't think about the triggering event. Stimulus, response. If you keep stimulating your nervous system, it's going to respond. So stop it. Stop. And just breathe. Now you might think, well, I'm not really a meditator, Sandy. I can't just sit and breathe for 20 minutes. Okay, that's fine. Do something else relaxing. Listen to some calming music that will help soothe your soul. Do an activity that you enjoy. Go for a walk in nature. Pet your dog. Gracie keeps coming over here and bothering me and saying, pet me. And so, what do? I pet the dog. Find something that you enjoy that will help you to stop stimulating your nervous system. So you'll stop thinking about the triggering event. That's the best way to process the chemicals. Once the chemicals are out, if you choose to, you can work through in your mind what happened. You might want to do this with the help of a therapist or a trusted friend. What happened? Did I lose control? Did I do something I didn't want to do? How can I avoid doing that in the future? So these are things that you can go through after. I was going to say long after. It doesn't have to be long after, but after you calm down. And if you feel yourself starting to get upset again, then stop that process. And it's time for another 20-minute pause, because once you feel yourself starting to get upset, that means the stress hormones are in the bloodstream. So you're going to have to just repeat the process. And that's why I say long after. You might want to wait a day or a few days, depending on how upsetting the event is. And you might not need to do an autopsy of the event at all. It might be a pretty surface thing. Okay, there was a fender bender. I got mad. The other driver didn't intend to hit me. They didn't leave the house in the morning thinking, I'm going to go and ram somebody else's car. No, of course not. They're as upset as I am. So having that awareness may be all it takes, and then you're done. It might be something longer term, a disappointment with the way that life has turned out. A lot of us, women of a certain age, or people of a certain age, we start to get to where we're looking back over the course of our lives and we're going, this is not what I thought I would be doing at this point in my life. This is not where I wanted to be at this age. And there's a lot of that. First, do you need to have that dialogue with yourself? Is that really something that you need to ruminate over? If not, let it go. And if it is, then okay, then take a look at it. But look at it from the standpoint of, well, how can I change this? If you find yourself getting angry all the time at a particular person or a particular situation, ask yourself, how can I change this? Right? Our emotions serve a valuable purpose. Once we identify something as unpleasant, then we know that we don't like this thing. How can we change it? If we cannot change it, then we have to accept it. And I mentioned acceptance earlier, so we're coming back to that now. If it's not something you can change right now, then you have to accept it. If you're in that business meeting and you can't get up and go to the restroom, you're just going to have to accept the fact that your colleague is a jerk and your boss is an idiot. And just accept that. But after work, when you're home, you can update your resume and start sending it out. So there's a time for acceptance and there's a time for action. Sometimes there is no action ever. There's nothing you can do. I am disappointed that both of my parents are gone. They had me rather late in life, which means that I lost them at a younger age than many people lose their parents. That makes me sad and I'm disappointed. And there's nothing I can do about it. So I accept it. I accept it. I'm happy to have had the parents I had. I am happy that we had the time we did. And who knows, they might have sucked as parents if they had me when they were younger. So, maybe I lucked out on that front. I'll never know. I'll never know. I can't do anything about it, so I just accept it. All right? So there we go. Emotions are not morally good or bad. They just are. How we act on them, however, determines our karma. So we want to make skillful actions. First, calm down. Breathe in deeply, breathe out slowly. Get a timeout if you can for 20 minutes to let your body flush all the stress hormones out of your bloodstream. And don't continue thinking about the triggering thing while you're doing that. And then move into action. Is there something you can do about it? If so, do that thing. If there isn't anything you can do about it, then just accept. Accept that this is the way that life is in this moment, and you get to be here to bitch about it. I'm Sandy Myodo Gougis with Profound Way. I hope that was helpful and that you have a fantastic day. See you next time. Bye-bye.